Welcome back. All right, so I want to talk about the New York Islanders. Yep. So in my continuing look at teams as the summer rolls along, I want to talk about the New York Islanders, where they're at, changes they've made, and this may very well be how their lineup looks going into next season. So Lou Lamoriello, sometimes known to do things last minute, right? Whether it's qualifying offers, whether it's announcing who's going to be on the roster. He's not bothered with deadlines. He's not bothered with any of that last minute. He'll let you know what he's doing if he wants to. He's one of these guys too that when he signs a contract, he doesn't tell you how much the contract's for. None of your business. Very old school GM, and he has gravitated towards veteran forwards. This is something that's been talked about a lot, but there's been changes. This is not the same Islanders team right now that they were 12 months ago. And he seems to be approaching this offseason as a GM who doesn't have a lot of cap space, because he doesn't. Their cap space, $387,500. So it's possible he's wanted to make other changes. I know Islander fans really wanted DeBrincat. One of two things. Either there wasn't a trade to be worked out between Ottawa and the Islanders, or DeBrincat said, I'm not signing long-term with the Islanders. One or the other, right? So I know that that's going to hit Lou Lamoriello, and people will be like, Lou should have done something, but I don't know if DeBrincat would have made a huge positive impact, and I'll get to that. So their exits so far, and I say so far because Parise could end up coming back. Parise, currently a UFA. Lou Lamoriello's made it clear that if he chooses to keep playing and he wants to come back to the Islanders, there is a roster spot there. Now, when I look through this roster, I don't know if there is a roster spot there necessarily, but, I'll take Lou at his word. Josh Bailey, of course, was traded and then bought out by the Chicago Blackhawks. Andreoff, they terminated his contract last week. So for the Islanders, it's not a huge change here. Like Parise, a 20-goal scorer, I would think there's enough talent within this organization and within the roster that they could offset the loss of Parise. And Bailey being out means that there's room there for maybe another one of the young players to jump in, right? Now, when we look at the numbers are interesting. So last season, 2021-2022, so the season before the one we just finished a couple weeks back, the Islanders had 84 points. They were outside the playoffs. They were 24th in goal scoring and 10th in goals against. Well, this season, they end up with 93 points. So that's an improvement of 9. They were out in the first round, of course. They were 23rd in goals for and 5th in goals against. The interesting thing to me is when I look at the Islanders roster, I think the goal scoring is there. It's a matter of systems. The systems that the Islanders play, it is a fast game. There's not a lot of whistles. There's not a lot of penalties. And there's not as many scoring chances for some of these players that there should be. So Barzal is one that's a target for a lot of fans. Like, well, Barzal's not worth this contract because. Now, this year in 58 games, 14 goals, 37 assists, 51 points for Barzal. I think Barzal is a star forward in the National Hockey League. And I think that if he played on a team that encourages offense, if he was in Buffalo, way more points. And a lot of assists. I don't know there'd be many more goals, but I think a lot of assists if he was in a setup where a team is willing to take that chance, where a team is willing to, take the reins off of him and let him go out there and just skate and create offensively. For the Islanders, I think that would be a smart way to go. Your goals against are probably going to go up, but you're paying Sorokin for the next 9 years. He is a fantastic goaltender. He can handle it. So with Barzal mentioned, and I'm going to come back, I'm actually going to go through the center spot last. We'll talk about left wing, right wing, and then we'll talk about center. And again, players do play multiple positions. I'm not worried about who's on what line. I'm just looking at the depth charts. So Anders Lee on the left side. Lee, I think, really appreciated the deals made by Lou Lamoriello. It really took a lot of the pressure off of him. And so Lee is, the leader of the team, and I think capable of more goals than what he had this past season too. Engvall, a solid addition from Toronto. It's an expensive long-term contract for Engvall, but Lou Lamoriello doesn't like to sit down and go through these contracts every year. He likes to get those long-term deals so he doesn't have to deal with it. Hudson Fasching kind of came out of nowhere for the Islanders last year and played pretty well. I absolutely agree with him getting a roster spot. And somebody's going to have to prove that they can push him out of there. Matt Martin, of course, part of a very popular and well-known fourth line, the identity line. I hate that name. That name is stupid. It's what stuck. At least it's not called the perfection line. So Martin, Cizikas, and Clutterbuck. That name just. Anyways, the whole other argument for a whole other time. But Martin, Cizikas, Clutterbuck, one of the best fourth lines in the NHL, maybe the best fourth line in the NHL. You've got Koivula there as well, Durando, and of course Ross Johnston. We know what Johnston brings. Johnston's he's tough as nails. Martin's contract is expiring, but should he want to come back, hey, Lou is very loyal to his players in general, and they seem to enjoy playing for him too. Then on the right-hand side, behind Barzal, who, again, I believe is a star, you've got Palmieri. Palmieri, of course, aging. That's what happens. The clock runs along, your calendar changes. You go, wow, I'm getting older. What happened? But yeah, Palmieri's there. And then Wahlstrom. Now, Wahlstrom's 23 years of age. Anybody 23 or younger, I put their name on the board because there's not a lot of younger players on this team. And that's definitely something that people have taken note of and complained about. But Wahlstrom, I think, much like Barzal, there's a lot more offense there than what we've seen with the New York Islanders. I think the talent is there. I think that the systems, again, employed by the Islanders might hold some of that scoring back. Clutterbuck, again, part of that great fourth line. Gauthier, solid addition, probably going to be a 13th forward. Kuhlman, much the same, good solid depth up front. Dufour. Dufour is an interesting one, right? So 21 years of age. Should probably end up on the third line at some point for the Islanders. So does an injury give him that chance this year? Or could he push somebody out? The Islanders, I don't think, are going to be shy about letting somebody go if he's outplayed. Lou Lamoriello is pretty fair that way. Again, despite some people's misgivings, I think he's fair as a GM. And I think if one player outplays another in training camp, well, then he wins the job. And then you've got Holmstrom, 22 years of age. We'll see what Holmstrom can provide this year, or if he ends up in the AHL. We'll see. And again, with the Islanders, it does feel like this roster's pretty much completed. The cap space is gone, and I think you can roll a pretty good four lines. Now we get to the middle. So Bo Horvat and all of the discussions of Horvat, it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. So 38 goals, 32 assists, 70 points this season. So 70-point season is fantastic, right? Career year for Horvat. The Canucks clearly not wanting to give him the money that the Islanders did because the Canucks had already invested in JT Miller and I guess figured that investing that much money in Horvat wouldn't make much sense. In Vancouver, Horvat was scoring goals with tip-ins in front of the net. His role was different with the New York Islanders, and it showed with the scoring, too. In 30 games with the Islanders, he had 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points. If he is deployed by the Islanders the same this year as he was after they acquired him, he won't score. He won't get more than about 20, 25 goals, maybe, right? He might end up with 45, 50 points. I will agree with detractors on that. But if the Islanders can really maximize Horvat's opportunities, he is fantastic at tipping shots. Like this past season in Vancouver, like at Pavelski level. Really, really felt like watching Pavelski when you watched Horvat in front of that net. So if the Islanders give him that chance, and if they deploy him in that situation, and if they have a good power play as well, and that's key, was that, a lot of this was on the power play too. Horvat can still be a 30-goal scorer. He can reach 65-plus points. I don't hate the contract with Horvat. Do I think it's expensive? Yes. Is it for a long time? Absolutely, sure. But I don't think it'll be as bad if the Islanders encourage that offense and if they loosen the reins a bit on these guys. And again, some of the systems they play, the fact that Islander games for the last, it feels like 3 or 4 years now, Islander games go much faster because you don't have the whistles, you don't have the fights, you don't have the penalties. It's just, you're done. Feels like a 20-minute period can be played in 15 minutes. There's no time. They really play like they're renting the ice by the hour. But if they play a more offensively steered style, and if they can keep the goals against down, which because of the way Sorokin plays, they should be able to, I think Horvat's contract, while it may not look like a bargain, it won't look as bad. But that's really key on them kind of changing the way they play. You've got Nelson, you've got Pajot, you've got Cizikas. This is the other part of this. Horvat is a face-off specialist too. He absolutely drove some solid face-off numbers for them after they acquired him. Horvat, Nelson, Pajot, Cizikas is a very respectable 4 lines at center. Then you've got Pino, who came in, 1-year deal for Pino. And you've got Ishikov here as well. So we'll see what happens with that center spot, but that really is key. The Horvat deal and whatever happens this year is really going to drive whether the Islanders look smart, whether or not Lou Lamoriello looks like he made the right decision, or, you know, for what potentially could be a swan song for Lou's career this season, it might be that anchor weighing around the team's neck. We'll see. Then you get to the blue line. You've got Pelech and Pulock. They play together. It's always fun to see announcers stumbling over which one's which while they're out there playing. Romanov, 23 years of age. I think he had a solid season with the Islanders. Looking forward to more progression from him. Dobson, 23 years of age, really coming into his own. 13 goals, 36 assists, 49 points. I'm a big fan of Noah Dobson. And again, both Romanov and Dobson at 23 years of age. That's some good youth on the blue line. Sebastian Aho has been brought along slowly. Mayfield, he re-signs a long-term deal with the Islanders because, again, Lou doesn't want to sit around and talk about contracts. Salo, Ledoux. Ledoux's on an expiring deal, the same as Aho. Chalowski, Grant Hutton, there for depth as well. And then there's Bolduc, 22 years of age. Does Bolduc get into the top 6? Does he not? We'll see again at age 22. This would probably be the time if he's going to get there. And, of course, we know the goaltending. You've got Sorokin, 924 save percentage for him. He's one of the best goaltenders in the league. Varlamov, 913 save percentage. Solid backup goaltender. And at this point, it really is starter and backup. It hasn't always been the case with these two, but it clearly is that Varlamov at an older age, I believe 35, 8 years older than Sorokin. He'll play probably 25 to 30 games. Sorokin may play upwards of 60 games. He played 62 this past season. I could see that being the case again this year. Skarek is down in the minors as well. He's 23 years of age. They also have Appleby, who's on an expiring contract right now. So, yeah, I mean, if something happens and a goalie gets hurt, I'll be interested to see if Skarek comes up and how he plays. But in general, the goaltending's really strong. I like the offense. I think their blue line's solid. I totally understand why Lou Lamoriello hasn't done more. So while there's fans in New York that wanted to see DeBrincat end up with the Islanders, I just feel like either the Islanders wouldn't pony up enough assets, or it was one of those teams that DeBrincat or his agent said, yeah, we're not signing there. That's not going to happen. So there's not much you can do. If a player says, I'm not going there, I'm not signing there, the GM really can't do much if the player is decided. So we'll see what the Islanders do. Are they still a playoff team? I think they'll be close. I don't think they'll be one of the top 3, but we'll see. And again, this isn't really a preview. This is just off season, although it really feels like the Islanders are done, doesn't it? Let me know your thoughts. What else can the Islanders do at this point in time? What move would you try to make if you were Lou Lamoriello? And again, how do you get more offense? Because I think there's enough players here that can score and enough talented players that being 23rd in goals for, that they shouldn't be that low. Middle of the pack, maybe 15th or 16th, sure, but 23rd just seems way, way, way too low. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.